there, folks. So I use these packets of powder vitamin C sometimes, and the way you're supposed to use them is to dump the powder inside in a glass of water and stir it up and then drink it. And I happen not to like that. I'm not sure why. I don't like water by itself very much, but I do like water. I do like coffee, which is mostly water with just a little flavoring. Um, anyway, my solution has been so I'm going to open this bag. There's a little slit over here, so to start it, and then you pull it over. By the way, the easiest way to open is to tear it and then move your fingers closer to where the tear ended. Tear again and move your fingers closer. Keep moving these gripping fingers closer, and you can get uh, it just seems oh, I'm not sure how to word it, but it becomes easier to tear it at that point because you've got a stronger grip on the bottom. Um, I should say, if I say anything wrong in this video, I may, and I'll write it in the description under the video. I've already made this video once, and it's kind of frustrating because I said one thing wrong. I don't like to edit the videos. My editor, I have a suspicion when I edit, and I could add a segment at the end, but I don't think the focus then is as good on the videos. So I'm just remaking it, but I will write it. Or if I forget, think of something that's important to add, I'll write it in the words under the video. Now, I'll set this down for a moment and I'm going to kind of lean it on something so this part is kind of up because I don't want it to spill. Basically, I'm setting on the desk and kind of leaning it on the side of this keyboard. So picture the desk under there. Um, and I take this and kind of rub it. I don't think anything comes out. It just makes me feel better that I've done everything to get all the powder out. In fact, I actually suck on that a bit and chew it to get all that powder out. Then I'm going to discard that. You may not do that. These are ideas and options. You may do some of them, all of them, none of them. I'm sharing how I do it, not necessarily recommending it. It works for me. Now I've opened that up and I'm going to dump that powder on this plate. And I'm going to do the same thing as put my finger up in there and kind of rub it around over the plate. Not the same thing. Well, I guess it is kind of similar. The plate is off camera. I'm just kind of, but it's down there. Anything that's in there is going to fall out. And so it's on the plate. And then I'm going to basically I'm going to take a start to lick this stuff up. So I touch it, my tongue to it, get a fair amount on there, and pull my tongue into my mouth. I would say when I touch my tongue to it, there's a kind of a shock, a little bit of a citric acid shock. Um, so most of the time when I then pull my tongue into my mouth because I suppose as the powder sits on my tongue, it'll dissolve, and I want to have to eat it, to consume it, and have it go down my throat. So my tongue should be in my mouth. I mean, I think that's what happens. I know it dissolves. I don't know what would happen if I left my tongue outside my mouth. Um, but well, in the long run, I just wouldn't eat it because it wouldn't be. But I don't know what would happen to the powder if it would drip off my tongue. I'm not sure. Anyway, I pull it in, and often when I pull it in, there's still that shock, so I don't immediately chew it. I kind of let my tongue sit there and rest a few seconds anyway. That time when I pulled it in, I think I did chew it pretty soon, but usually I don't. Um, and this eating, and then once I've let those few seconds elapse, and I've sort of let my tongue rest a bit and my mouth from that little shock, then I'll chew it. And it tastes good. It's an orange flavor. Um, but it's sort of a feel thing of how to eat this. Um, what I'm sharing with you is you can hesitate. You don't have to pull your tongue in and immediately chew it or swallow it. You can hesitate. Let's see, let's try again. Oh, that high. This time I am hesitating. And I think this time I hesitated when I pull it in and kind of let it rest a bit from that shock. Might my mouth, I think like everyone's mouth, kind of exudes saliva, but I try to kind of hold that saliva back a bit from that powder sitting on that tongue for a few seconds because there's still a shock from the powder on the tongue. It's a pleasant shock. It's not unpleasant, but it is kind of a shock, a bit of a jolt. And then eventually I let the saliva come in and chew and consume it. Uh, when I try to describe it in words, it sounds complicated and maybe like effort. In practice, it's not that complicated or that much effort. And I don't know that there's any advantage to this over drinking it with a glass of water. So this is my particular unusual thing, and it most people might just drink it with water and be happy. But if you're like me and you don't like it that way, this would be another option. And there'd be other options. You could put it in a glass of any beverage, I think, and drink it that way. And there's probably other ways to consume it. I mean, I suppose you could put it on food and maybe mix it in with the food, maybe breakfast cereal, which does have some fluid. Um, but this works pretty well for me, and I do probably sort of enjoy that little shock, that little jolt a bit. So there's a little less now. It's sitting there, and now I'm going to chew it. I think maybe what maybe what causes me to chew it. So I think everyone's mouth exudes saliva all the time, and we swallow it over and over and over all day long. I don't know how many times we swallow. I think I've looked it up. If you don't swallow, well, your throat starts to feel, you almost have to, throat starts to feel dry, or you might drool it out. But eventually you have to swallow that saliva. And at that point, I guess I chew it because I don't want to be swallowing the saliva, and so it will take down some of those unchewed particles. as it builds up. So at some point I do start chewing it. Now keep in mind, I'm trying to describe processes of how to eat something, and like I say, I may say something wrong that I'll watch a video afterwards and say, "Oh my gosh, that was wrong," and I don't want to have to make the whole video again, so I'll write it under the in the description under the video. Anything I say that's wrong probably isn't too wrong. And by the way, do like, comment, and subscribe if you like, etc. If you like the content. Um, but I could say something that's wrong, or for not think of something that would be valuable. So again, I took it in. I waited a few seconds there and then chewed it up. And there's getting to be less on the plate, as you can imagine. I can kind of knock it together or use my tongue to go around on the plate and get it. If I weren't making the video, I might be consuming it more slowly because I'd just keep it there to the side, and as I wanted some, I would get it on my tongue and consume it. But since I am making the video, I'll keep doing it. Now there, that was a little different. I got on my tongue. I'm not sure what happened there. Some saliva came in, and somehow the saliva took it off the tongue and into kind of a little blob of orange flavored saliva. And um, then I chewed it. It was a little different because I think normally it's not quite as much a blob of saliva. Um, and it's not quite as distinctly separate from the tongue. Uh, um, so I guess the point is it can be different what happens inside the mouth. Not hugely different because it's the same small space plus your tongue and saliva, but different things can happen in there. I would say for me, the most important point for the comfort is that you don't, once you take it in your mouth, you don't immediately have to chew it or immediately swallow it. Now, this level's getting down a little bit on the plate. That last time when I licked, I actually licked it up and then moved to a different point and licked up more. You can kind of do that. That time, I sort of pulled the plate away and I could look. I got my first lick, pulled the plate away, and I can see where there's more, and got some more. Um, and um, that worked because I maybe don't want to get just a little bit each time, too small amount each time, because then it'll become quite a bit of effort lifting the plate to my mouth many times. Um, but I mean, technically, you could just lift it and just get as much as you can in one spot. Um, like I say, there's lots of ways to do this. I'm showing you some of the different things that come up, but you might do it differently. So again, I went to several points on the plate. There's been times it felt like I was able to kind of keep, as the powder amount of powder diminished, I could kind of push what was remaining together. so I could keep going down and getting it in the same spot. This particular bunch has ended up kind of around the plate, um, but I'm not sure. I might, maybe it's always like that, that it ends up, I think it maybe is like that, that it always ends up around the plate. I'm not certain, um, but maybe more so this time. It's probably a little different each time. Um, um, so that's kind of the idea. I'm almost done with it, and um, I hope it'll protect me from colds and flu like it's supposed to. Most of my diet is fluid dairy products, which are milk and cream, and they don't have vitamin C. So I do supplement with vitamin C. Although I do get a certain amount of food that probably does have vitamin C in it, but I still feel good. When I feel like my throat feels a little funny, I often will do a little envelope of vitamin C. Um, and um, maybe that does help. Um, I still do get a cold occasionally. Let's see, this is almost done. That time when I took it in, it actually went towards the back, and I thought might end up swallowing it without chewing it, but I kind of brought it back up in the saliva and chewed it. Now, these are small, small amounts that are going in now, so there's not as much of that shock. So, to some degree, I'm chewing them almost as soon as they go in and then getting a little more because there's really small amounts left. And I am getting small amounts sometimes. And I don't know if that's necessary. I guess maybe when I get a small amount because it's now really spread out around the plate, maybe there is a tendency to want to take the tongue into the mouth and finish that before I go and get more. Because it takes longer. When it's more spread out, it takes longer to get to where it is, to even see it visually. And therefore, I don't want to keep the tongue hanging out all that time, um, like I did when there was more and I was hitting it in multiple places. So I'm chewing it, getting it, chewing, really small amount. Now I'm basically finishing it. And I would say it's done. Um, and I enjoyed it, and that way worked better for me. I prefer that for whatever reason. So, like I say, it's an option. You can play with it or don't do it. You might enjoy knowing about it. It's there for you as a possibility. Um, so when I say like, comment, subscribe, etc., it is nice to get those things as a creator, but I think the more those things happen, the better focus that YouTube shows the video in. So I guess it seems to me like it's good for everybody.